to do it.
There's more than 700,000 miles of roads across California, Oregon, and Washington, and all of them lead to an adventure. Hey, travel reporter John Bartell here. You're watching BARTELL'S Backroads. Today, we're going to be taking the ultimate road trip across the West Coast to see some of my favorite landmarks and attractions. Buckle up, because our first stop in Mono County to see one of California's strangest geological wonders, Crowley Lake Columns. At the easternmost edge of Crowley Lake in Mono County, there's a geological formation like no other. It's known as the Crowley Lake Columns, and from a distance, it looks like rows of off-white pillars that are holding up the hillside like a giant Greek Parthenon. And under the bright blue eastern Sierra sky, it's an absolutely amazing sight to see.
I don't think I'm gonna make it.
The only problem, it's not that easy to get to. There's only 3 ways to access the columns: by boat, in a high-clearance vehicle, or on foot. And since our standard SUV couldn't get over the steep rutted roads, we reluctantly chose to walk. It's not an easy hike. I guess it's not an easy job being a geologist, huh? Luckily for us, we were traveling with geologist Noah Randolph Flagg, who knew the way to the columns and how they were formed.
And the history and the story of the columns is really the story of a volcano.
The story that Noah's talking about started 780,000 years ago, following a massive eruption.
So this is Crowley Lake, and that's the edge of the caldera, and all of this hot rock blasted that way.
Following the eruption, the ground subsided or collapsed in on itself, leaving a 10 by 20 mile long hole that geologists call the Long Valley Caldera.
I'm standing in a pile of ash, and I'm standing near the bottom of it.
Ash, hundreds of feet thick, covered the area, and much like a campfire, everything below the ash was very hot for a very long time.
The type of rock has existed for a long time, and I think it is a mystery how they formed and exactly when they formed.
Now, there's a lot of scientific debate on exactly how the Crowley Lake Columns were formed, but in 2018, Noah and his colleagues used research data to create a computer model on the volcanic activity and wrote a paper about their findings.
In our models, it took about 100 years to form these columns.
Noah says over many years, rainwater seeped down through the hot ash and started to boil.
And what happens when water boils in this type of rock is it forms a glue, which we call mordanite.
Research suggests that the mordanite glue columns are all over the Long Valley Caldera, not just at the edge of the lake.
And the reason we see them so beautifully here is because of this lake, which was built in 1941 by the damming of the Owens River.
Crowley Lake is a reservoir, and as it rises and falls, it erodes the ashy soil, but not the mordanite columns.
Columns extend as far back as we can go.
Volcanically formed columns like this are rare and only formed in a handful of places around the world. And by studying them, Noah hopes that it'll help save lives after future eruptions.
We actually have seen this recently. There was an eruption in Guatemala in 2018. Some of this hot rock that was still cooling remobilized and it wiped out a village. You know, this is a real hazard, and people live near volcanoes and they live downhill from volcanoes. And understanding how they can mobilize and how they cool, I think is really important.
Is it safe to be standing under these right here?
Yeah, I think don't push too hard.
Well, you don't have to worry about the Crowley Lake Columns moving anytime soon. They've been pretty stable rock formation for many years, and it's a great backdrop for a picture, if you can get there. 6 giant slides tucked into a hillside turn an ordinary park visit into a full-speed blast. Chutes and ladders in Point Defiance Park in Tacoma, Washington is where the fastest way down comes with a little grin and maybe a little squeal. Why use the stairs when you can slide to your destination? Why are there so many slides here? What is this thing?
It's Tacoma's Chutes and Ladders. Yeah!
Hiding behind the Wilson Way pedestrian bridge is a set of 6 slides that traverse down a 60-foot slope. Why is it here, you ask? Well, Point Defiance Park guide Jennifer Trahan has the answer.
It is to get you down to the marina, and this is just a fun way to break up that long walk.
Oh yeah!
Breaking up the walk is one way to describe it.
31, 32, 33, 34.
chances are you'll get even more steps than you expected because you're going to want to march up the gauntlet of stairs again.
Okay. Well, what was the final count?
Around 117.
Okay.
From the top of the stairs, you can get a good look at Point Defiance Park, and this is where Jennifer points out that one half of the park is old-growth forest with Douglas fir and red cedar, but the other part, below the slides, was a toxic Superfund site.
What is under us right now?
Slag.
Slag. What is slag?
So slag is the bio-waste of Asarco.
Asarco was a copper smelter that operated from 1912 to 1985. The facility processed ore that was high in arsenic and lead. Not only were the toxic pollutants spewed out from the smelter's smokestack, but a copper byproduct called slag was dumped into the water's edge.
So a lot of people don't realize that this actually used to be a toxic wasteland.
The pollutants from Asarco was so bad that it eventually inspired novelist and Tacoma native Frank Herbert to write the famous science fiction novel Dune.
Because there was remediation done and this revitalization of this park, it kind of represented Dune's story.
It took years of litigation and cleanup, but the toxic slag was eventually contained, and a new recreation area was built on top of it.
There's other places in the United States that are Superfund sites, but this one I feel like is a great example because you got to see it from destruction to revitalization.
Lurking beneath a bridge, a giant concrete troll grips a real Volkswagen and steals the spotlight from passing traffic. Built by local artists, the Fremont Troll has become a true Seattle icon, proving that public art can be weird, wonderful, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Before the condos and before the townhomes, Fremont was home to a mix of working class people and artists like Fremont Council member Marc Davy.
Artists wanted something else. We wanted art.
In 1989, the city asked the Fremont Art Council to launch an art competition to rehabilitate the area under the bridge, which was becoming a dump site and attracting illegal activity.
Tech industry moved in because they loved the art. They loved the vibe, but they didn't need the artist.
Mock says the Art Council wanted to build an eye-catching sculpture with a metaphorical backstory, so they came up with the idea of a concrete troll crushing a car that symbolized newcomers commuting in and out of Fremont.
Well, he is a bit angry. He grabbed the Volkswagen off the bridge. He grabbed it because all the artists were being gentrified out of our community. At this time, no artists live in our community.
After the troll was unveiled in the 1990s, Mock says the city didn't really care for the statue, but before long, people started visiting the troll. A lot of people.
We have tour buses, there's probably 100 to 200 people a day, maybe 300 on a weekend.
Most of the artists may have been pushed out of the area, but the Fremont Art Council still creates art at their headquarters, and every year they celebrate the meaning of the troll.
We come back every Halloween night and we throw a big party here, 600 people in elaborate costumes. And then after that, we have a protest march through the community called the Haunt of Fremont. Remember us.
It's clear to see the artful past of Fremont has not been forgotten. It's even expanded around the community and in a new trail right next to the sculpture called the Troll's Knoll, which is full of art for people to explore. Welcome back to Bartell's Backroads. We're on an epic road trip across California and the Pacific Northwest. Up next, we're heading to Astoria, Oregon to climb high above the Columbia River. The Astoria Column is covered in historic murals, and the climb is well worth the view. The spiral artwork around the Astoria Column tells the story of Oregon's early history, from Lewis and Clark mapping a route to the Pacific Ocean in 1805 to the birth of statehood in 1859.
Kind of like the world's tallest history book, almost, in a way.
Maybe. I've never thought about that. We may have to check that claim and see if we can start making that claim.
Although it's wrapped in history and art, Astoria Museum's director Mac Burns says the giant column that overlooks the mouth of the Columbia River is actually a tourist attraction.
It is the best vista in Astoria. It's the highest point. We're on top of Coxcomb Hill, and you can see the 8 miles out to the Pacific Ocean. You can see the 6 miles across the river to cross the Columbia River to Washington. You can see Young's River over where Fort Clatsop and Lewis and Clark spent the winter.
The 164-step Astoria Column was a dream funded by railroad baron Ralph Budd, who wanted to increase passenger transport on the Great Northern Railroad.
So he had this vision of 8 or 12 monuments, and this is the grandest one. He did build some others, but they're just not as magnificent, and the train routes changed.
The column was completed in 1926, and on the day of its dedication, 8,000 people showed up to climb the 125-foot tall column and look over the balcony.
You better not be afraid of heights.
Yeah.
Do this.
So this is the best view anywhere in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, best
right
view
here.
as soon as you catch your breath. Like
That's true.
One part of the attraction that Ralph Budd didn't think about in 1926 is the relatively new tradition of throwing balsa wood planes off the balcony.
Thing we've done for years. It's the only legal thing you can throw off the top of the column, but we encourage everybody. They're biodegradable, so and if they bonk you on the head down below, they're not going to hurt you or anything.
On a good day, Max says the planes can glide down to the high school football field, which is several miles away. And if you're lucky, the plane will do loops around the column's uniquely painted mural.
It's not just paint that you're looking at, it's called sgraffito. And I'm a layman, I'm not a full-on conservator artist, but my understanding, the way I've always been told to explain it, is it's like painted concrete. Not painted on the concrete, but within the concrete.
History, exercise, and a little fun. More than 400,000 people visit the Astoria Column every year. And I think it's safe to say that Ralph Budd's dream to attract tourists is still working today. Sleeping among the branches turns childhood dreams into a grown-up reality at this forest hideaway. Treehouse Point in Fall City, Washington is a true backroads escape where towering evergreens, cozy rooms, and a sense of wonder come standard. Chances are your childhood treehouse was not as elegant or ornate as the one that overlooks the raging river in Washington. It also probably didn't have plumbing. These are the high-flying rooms at Treehouse Point in Fall City.
How high are we up here?
From the bottom of the forest floor to the top, it's 200 feet.
If you're looking to conquer your fear of heights, General Manager Abby Rodriguez says this is probably the most comfortable place to do it.
I mean, absolutely, because why wouldn't you want to conquer your fears where you know you're going to be also in a very, very comfortable bed at night?
There are 7 tree houses and 3 ground units at Treehouse Point, and there's 2 ways to see them. Book a room or book a walking tour. Who knows? You might even bunk up next to a celebrity.
We actually had Brian McKnight here a couple months ago. We've had Macklemore here. We've had, some of them have been a little bit more incognito that I can't tell you about.
I'm Pete Nelson, the Treehouse Man.
One celebrity I unfortunately didn't run into was TV host Pete Nelson and lead builder at Treehouse Point.
It was called Treehouse Masters. It was on Animal Planet for 11 seasons. It was not just Pete, it was his whole family. So you got to see Judy, you got to see the boys, Henry and Charlie, and Emily.
Pete Nelson's been building tree houses since he was a kid, and his family opened up Treehouse Point in 2006 as a way to expose more people to life in the trees.
We've gotten further and further away from the natural order, and so sleeping in a treehouse brings you back to that balance. And we are pretty unplugged here. We have Wi-Fi available in the lodges, but in most of the tree houses, there's no Wi-Fi.
Each treehouse here is different. Some have a more classic look, while others, like the Ananda House, are full of amenities and accessible to everyone.
And inside, it is incredibly luxurious and spacious because it is the first ever ADA compliant treehouse in Washington State.
Whether you're trying to conquer your fear of heights or rekindle those childhood treehouse memories, this is a great place to experience nature and admire the fine treehouse craftsmanship. Riding an elevator outdoors isn't something you do every day, especially when it's climbing a rocky cliff. The Oregon City Municipal Elevator has been lifting locals and visitors since 1915, turning a simple ride into a piece of living history. If you're a millennial like me, the first video game you played at school was probably the Oregon Trail game, a low bitrate game that challenges players to cross treacherous terrain and raging rivers in a covered wagon, all without dying.
Oregon City was where you were trying to get at Abernathy Green, just a couple miles over there.
This is the end of the Oregon Trail and the Oregon Trail game, essentially.
Exactly, yeah. So if you actually made it, didn't get dysentery, you got to hear in Oregon City.
When pioneers arrived in Oregon City, they ran into a major obstacle that would later trouble modern residents. That obstacle is a giant rock bluff that separates the industries on the lower Willamette River from the higher residential living area. I can definitely see why they wouldn't want to walk this every
Yeah, I mean, this is like an even easier climb than they had back then.
Oregon City Communications Manager Jared Lyman says by the 1910s, residents were tired of trudging up these 700 feet of stairs to get to and from work. So they built a vertical street.
It may look a little spaceshipy, but it's actually something a little more down to earth. It is the Oregon City Municipal Elevator, one of only 4 in existence in the world, and it's actually the only vertical street in the world as well.
Look, I'm not here to debate the difference between an elevator and a street. I'm here to learn about the odd history of this thing.
So the first elevator was 1915, yeah.
What was that like?
That was not what you see now. It was a much longer of a trip. It was water powered when it first opened, so you're talking like sometimes as many as 5 minutes just to get the elevator up.
The reason the original elevator took 5 minutes to go up and down is because they used the city's water pressure to lift residents, which turned out to be not so reliable.
Sometimes it stopped working. And there was actually like a little escape hatch that people would have to crawl out and go down or up this very narrow ladder.
The elevator was eventually converted into electricity and then in the 1950s redesigned and now looks like a spaceship.
But at the time, the actual call for building the elevator was, we want something as plain and non-ornamental as possible. They were trying to save money. But now it kind of created this iconic look that seems like something out of a sci-fi era.
From the top of the elevator, you can get a great view of Willamette Falls.
There's a lot of water coming over those falls. In fact, they're actually the second largest waterfall in the country by volume, behind only Niagara Falls.
Next to the falls is what's left of the old sawmill and paper mill. Jared says the land is now being redeveloped.
This property is actually now owned by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, and they have a phenomenal vision that's going to turn this area into a real centerpiece for Oregon City. It's something a lot of people are excited to see.
Times have changed since the Oregon Trail and the early industries that were in this area, but with new developments, the Oregon City Municipal Elevator will still be needed. An old passenger jet sitting in the woods isn't something you see every day. The airplane home in Hillsboro, Oregon, turns a retired aircraft into a one-of-a-kind home that's equal parts aviation history and pure backroads weirdness. A lot of the places I visit on my travels are suggestions from viewers who watch the show. But in the case of this story, my sister texted me a Google Maps pin and a video. That pin drop took me to a forest just outside of Hillsboro, Oregon, where satellite images show a jetliner surrounded by trees. Did a plane crash here?
Hello, I'm Bruce. Nothing's private, you may explore anywhere.
This is definitely not a plane wreck. In fact, this Boeing 727 jetliner was placed here intentionally by Bruce Campbell. Why is this in the middle of the forest here?
This is my home. It's a Boeing 727-200 jetliner, retired at Athens International Airport in Greece. I purchased it. Teams and I brought it here. It's my home. When I'm in America, this is home.
Bruce is obviously not your usual homeowner, and a jetliner is not your usual home, but Bruce would like to change that.
They're readily available. About 3 retire from service every day. Mostly they're just flown to a scrapyard and shredded. And it's a shame because they make great homes, aerospace class homes. Let's try these.
Bruce is a retired electrical engineer with a background in aviation, and for more than a decade now, he's been giving visitors tours of his airplane home in hopes they would consider building one themselves.
Want a Kayaking, Ma? Yeah, good.
Bruce is more than hospitable, always welcoming people from around the world who speak different languages. But like in anyone's home, Bruce does have some rules.
Please don't touch any exposed circuits. Also, the futon sofa with the purple blanket back there is for freshly showered naked bodies only. If you're not freshly showered and naked, please don't sit there. I sleep there. It's not for outdoor clothes.
Okay, now that we got the rules out of the way, visitors are free to move about the cabin, the cockpit, and even the top of the plane. And while you explore, Bruce will spout out some fun facts about this Boeing 727.
We're in the cabin area now, the forward cabin area. And you can see a few seats from the original aircraft, one of which Jacqueline Kinney Onassis Keister was in, because the very last flight for the owner of the airline, Aristotle Onassis, was in this particular aircraft.
After the assassination of JFK, Jackie Kennedy married Greek shipping mogul and airline owner Aristotle Onassis. The two flew this plane, and it was eventually used during Onassis's funeral procession.
And then his body was carried in this aircraft back to Greece for his burial.
The plane was retired in 1999, and that's when Bruce got a hold of it.
The aircraft retired at Athens International Airport in Greece, was flown to Hillsboro Airport about 20 kilometers away for the project.
Bruce says if he had the chance to do it all over again, he would have landed the plane on his property. Instead, he had to dismantle the jet in the middle of the night and then truck the jetliner to where it is now.
Once having done that, we fished our way by towing through a very carefully planned route through downtown Hillsboro with just centimeters to spare.
After a whole lot of moving and reconstruction work, Bruce planted trees around the plane and then moved in. How much square footage? How big is this thing?
The interior cabin space is 99 square meters. For people who dislike meters, 1,066 square feet.
The goal behind Bruce's airplane home is to show the benefits of repurposing decommissioned jets.
You can make an entire project, you can fabricate a jetliner home for a total cost of about $100,000 for aircraft of about this size.
Bruce will be the first to admit this project was a bit of a learning process.
It's a hack job.
But Bruce is already planning to build a new airplane home, version 2 as he calls it, and he's sharing the detailed plans on how to acquire and build one yourself on his website.
Which we hope will send planet Earth into a new era in which all retired jetliners are used as homes, small businesses, or at least emergency provision shelters.
Well, whether you're building an airplane home or just visiting because your sister told you to, Bruce says stop by any time for a free tour.
It's actually better for me if people simply spontaneously visit.
Welcome back to Bartell's Backroads. We're on an epic road trip to see some of my favorite West Coast destinations. Heading back to California now, a clear bottom canoe is the best way to see the crystal clear waters of Lake Tahoe. It's like you're floating high above those granite boulders below you. Lake Tahoe. It's known as the Jewel of the Sierra, and it's one of the deepest and clearest lakes in California.
I'm noticing we are getting very deep here, and I can see way the heck down there.
Oh yeah.
And the best way to experience the clear water is in a clear kayak.
These boats are made out of a polycarbonate plastic, same material that they use on aircraft windows.
Jeff Miller is a kayak guide with Clearly Tahoe, an adventure company focused on teaching their riders about the lake water and why it's so clean.
Lake Tahoe's purity level is 99.994% pure. Now, your still drinking water is actually 99.998% pure, so it's pretty close.
Though it's not recommended to drink the lake water, you technically could, and there's plenty of it.
They actually say that this lake does have enough water in it to supply every single person in the United States with 50 gallons of water every day for 5 years, they say.
If you want to see Lake Tahoe at its cleanest, Jeff says you should come in winter or early spring. In fact, researchers from UC Davis announced that the spring of 2023 is the clearest they've seen in over 40 years.
From our last recording from UC Davis, actually, I saw that they got it all the way down to 115 feet.
You could see 100 feet down?
115 feet was the recording that they had.
One of the best places to see the depths of Lake Tahoe is at Bonsai Rock on the east shore. From the surface of the lake, the round granite boulders below create a stunning contrast to the sandy lake bed, which seems to sparkle with every ripple in the water.
What are all these sparkly things? Is this gold below me?
Well, believe it or not, here in Lake Tahoe, we do have the wonderful thing called Iron Pirate, also known as fool's gold. So
I'm not gonna get
unfortunately not today, buddy.
As clear as the water is, you will not be able to see the deepest part of Lake Tahoe, which is more than 1,600 feet below the surface, leaving plenty of space for fish and other aquatic life to hide.
Is there any sort of like creatures that might attack us, eat us?
You got the good old famous Tahoe Tessie, come on.
Tahoe Tessie?
Tahoe Tessie, the Loch Ness Monster of Lake Tahoe.
Never before photographed and rarely seen, Tahoe Tessie has been said to be living in the lake's underwater caves, but these computer-generated photos give us a glimpse of what the monster might look like and might eat.
No recent attacks from Tessie?
Nah. She only likes to eat clear kayakers and paddleboarders, who wears tops. No.
Although Tahoe Tessie has not been photographed, other lake monsters have.
On top of that, we also have the zooplankton, which have been making a drastic comeback.
The zooplankton in Lake Tahoe are microscopic animals that feed on fine particles and algae in the water. Jeff says previous years of warm weather and other causes have minimized the population until this year.
They're like the little cleaners of the lake.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a natural cleaner.
It takes more than zooplankton to keep Tahoe's water clean. Over the past few decades, invasive species like zebra mussel and Eurasian milfoil have threatened Tahoe's health and clarity. These invasive species are brought in by boats or other water toys that have been in other infected lakes. Jeff says, now more than ever, it's the job of humans to keep Tahoe clean.
The conservation 100% is clean, draining, dry, and all your personal vessels especially. You don't want to be bringing any of those invasive species into this lake. Okay. Also, on top of that, make sure you're packing it in, packing it out.
Gliding above the roaring waters gives you a bird's eye view of one of the Northwest's most powerful urban waterfalls. Back in Washington, the Sky Ride gondola at Riverfront Park turned Spokane Falls into a front row spectacle. You are looking at one of the largest urban waterfalls in the United States. Spokane Falls in Spokane, Washington. It's the centerpiece of the city, and its roar can be heard throughout Riverfront Park.
So last year we had 24,000 cubic feet per second, which is equivalent to filling an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 4 seconds.
And the best way to see the falls is on the historic Sky Ride.
The water is coming down the falls off the basalt rock, and the basalt is part of the formation, old lava flows from the Cascade Mountains, and this is part of the remnants of that. And when the Missoula floods came in, it carved all the sediment out and left this.
Park Director John Moog says the Sky Ride was built for the 1974 World's Fair Expo, which at the time had an environmentally focused theme. This was great for Spokane because the city was making some big environmental changes.
Back in the day, right before the fair, we had railroads going over our heads. So as tall as the trees are now, there was railroad trestles 6 deep, or you could not see the river. So part of the environmental cleanup here was removing the railroads, restoring the land, restoring the river, and inviting people of the world to come and enjoy the renovations that we had to offer.
Spokane was a logging and railroad town, and the Spokane River had become heavily polluted because of it. But these historical pictures show how cleanup changed the city.
It was a really great thing to see because at the time you couldn't go in the river, you couldn't explore the river. We didn't have fish in the river because of all the pollution, but we cleaned it up, and now it's a beautiful park that we treasure as a community.
To help keep the city clean, Spokane enlisted the help of Garbage Goat.
What am I looking at now?
You are looking at Spokane's most favorite mascot.
I have seen a lot of mascots in my day, but I can honestly and affectionately say Garbage Goat sucks.
Push the button.
Oh,
Hey!
There you go.
All right!
All right, give it a shot.
Garbage Goat was sculpted out of recycled metal by Sister Pamela Turnbull, also known as the Welding Nun. She was a leading figure in the local art scene, but when the statue debuted in 1974, it attracted an unlikely source of controversy.
The dairy goat farmers came out and said, this is a misrepresentation of dairy goats. You should not be feeding dairy goats trash.
Luckily, Spokane was able to make amends with the dairy goat farmers, and Garbage Goat was allowed to stay.
It teaches sustainability and environmentally friendliness and just really care for the grounds of the park.
Riverfront Park has a number of other sculptures and landmarks to explore, including this giant red wagon, the Great Northern Clock Tower, the colorfully lit Giza Pavilion, and the beautifully restored 1909 Loof Carousel.
Loof is the builder and the carver of these horses, so it's a treasure for Spokane. It's one of our favorite things.
From a polluted industrial town to a clean tourist destination, today Spokane stands as a lasting symbol of environmentalism. His Garbage Goat accidentally sucked up someone's glove or anything like that, you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
yeah, we've gone digging for things, personal things before.
2 short tracks and a steep hill tell a big Los Angeles story. Angel's Flight has been hauling riders up and down Bunker Hill for more than a century, making it one of the city's smallest and most historic rides. Well, you may recognize it from the summer love scene in the romantic musical La La Land. Or you may have seen it on Amazon's hit detective drama, Bosch.
Man ruined a lot of careers.
This is Angel's Flight, the world's shortest railway.
Now we're 298 feet, so we are the shortest railway in the world.
Built in 1901 by Civil War engineer J.W. Eddy, Angel's Flight is a people mover, transporting passengers in the Bunker Hill area up and down Olive and Hill Street. And according to Angel's Flight Railway Foundation founder John Wilborn, the railway was in great demand because back then the city looked much different.
Residential neighborhood here, commercial neighborhood at the bottom.
To save room, the rail cars run on 3 tracks instead of 4 and was engineered using a centuries-old technology called a funicular railway.
Has 2 counterbalance cars connected to the same cable. So when one goes down, the other goes up.
Thanks to John and the Angel's Flight Railway Foundation, the tracks were reinstalled and opened up again in 1996. Today, they move around 2,000 passengers a day up and down the narrow tracks. It may be squeaky, shaky, and slow, but it's all part of the railcar's historic charm. Giant redwoods reach towards the sky as a trail full of odd surprises keeps you looking up. Hey, travel reporter John Bartell here. We're on an epic road trip to see some of my favorite landmarks across the West Coast. Up next, we head to Klamath, California to check out the Trees of Mystery, which mixes a little awe-inspiring nature with some backroads weirdness. Check it out. Along Highway 101, a giant stands tall in a mysterious section of Del Norte County's Redwood Forest. And no, I'm not talking about the trees. This giant is a legend in this area. And if you visit him between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., the giant might just talk to you. Oh, hey, Paul!
Hey, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. The friendly giant is Paul Bunyan, and he lives in the Trees of Mystery with his faithful sidekick, Babe the Blue Ox.
Tell me again, why is Babe blue?
Paul found him up in the mountains during a snowstorm, and he had been frozen solid and turned blue.
A giant logger and a blue ox is just the beginning of the mysteriousness of the Trees of Mystery. Walk inside the gates and you'll find a lineup of odd characters.
These are various people that were in the logging camp. Jack the Back, Red Thumb Robbie, who planted so many redwood trees his thumb turned red.
Tall statues and wood carvings are sort of the sideshow here. If you want to see the real mysteries of this place, just follow tour guide and manager Jennifer Gunther.
This is a massive tree in the middle of a bunch of smaller trees here.
Yes, I think that the loggers were probably just intimidated.
The giant and odd-looking trees inside this nature-themed attraction has been luring tourists to the area since 1946.
My grandfather was in the war. When he got back, he didn't want to live in San Francisco anymore. He wanted to get out in nature.
After purchasing the property, which was an old logging site in Klamath, California, Jennifer's grandparents, Ray and Marley Thompson, discovered a strange growing pattern in many of the remaining trees.
So these roots have grown out, and as you can see, it looks like 2 elephants if you use your imagination.
What started out as a walking tour through the property soon turned into a redwood-themed amusement park.
Where does this take us here? This is
To Ted's Ridge.
Instead of looking up at the trees, the Sky Trail offers visitors a unique look down.
Hills up here are very different. They're wider and flatter, and that is so they can catch the water from the fog and the rain.
Once you're at the top of the Sky Trail, you get a nice look at the misty redwood forest. On a clear day, you can see the ocean and the park's oldest redwood, the Brotherhood tree.
They think maybe even 3,000 years old, honestly. They've climbed it. They found all kinds of different animals. There's a bat cave in the middle. There's like salamanders and these little land crabs growing up in the top canopy.
land crabs?
It really moved there, doesn't it? The newest attraction in the park is the Canopy Trail, which is essentially a series of high-flying rope bridges.
This had to have been a really experienced tree fort builder.
Tremendous is the company who did it, yes.
Treehouse construction company Tremendous also allowed us to use their drone video so that everyone who's afraid of heights could experience the Canopy Trail without walking it.
We are, how far are we up right now?
About 100 feet from the trail down there.
Woo. Thank you for joining us here at Trees and Mysteries.
Well, I don't want to ruin all the mysteries of this place, so if you're still curious, you can ask Paul Bunyan about them yourself.
Just over the California border in Chiloquin, Oregon, there's a place where tiny trains deliver big adventure. Welcome to Train Mountain, home to the world's longest rideable miniature railroad. A hidden gem that's as surprising as it is massive. From the sky, you would think Chiloquin, Oregon is a bustling railroad town with a large train station. But from the ground, the size of the railroad station is a bit deceiving.
It's the largest 7.5 gauge railroad in the world.
This is Train Mountain, a miniature railroad park where everything is 1/8 scale of real locomotives.
We have 31 miles of track, 2,200 acres.
Tim Willard is a volunteer at Train Mountain, and he is what you call a foamer.
A foamer is a guy that is totally into trains, and once he sees one, starts drooling. So, yeah, there's a bunch of us.
Foaming at the mouth.
Foaming at the mouth, yep.
Well, if there's one place that would attract foamers, it's Train Mountain. This place is huge. The 30-plus miles of track weave through a dense forest and is pretty much hidden from view despite being so close to Highway 97 and Klamath Falls, Oregon. You could get lost on these tracks out here?
Absolutely. I am a firm believer because I've done it.
No miniature railroad would be complete without tiny towns to explore. As the train rolls along the tracks, you pass through the charming little model communities, like the quaint little community of Lilyville. What kind of town is Lilyville? Is this, it looks like it's a mining town?
Yeah, it's kind of a mining town, a farm town.
Not only is everything 1/8 scale in size, but the attention to detail is quite impressive. The artists even furnished the inside of many of the miniature homes and businesses.
This is a eye doctor and a dentist and general medicine.
Attention to detail is something that the late founder Quentin Breen wanted for Train Mountain. The former lawyer fell in love with a smaller miniature train park that was here in the 1970s. Quentin began buying up property with the dream of building an even bigger railroad.
And then once he got into this hobby, it kind of took off like a rocket, and he'd get volunteers. Almost everything you see around here is volunteer work.
Today, miniature train enthusiasts from all over the nation spend their days working in the garage, tinkering on the tracks, and giving tourists rides all over the property.
Kids are involved, and young people are involved. Older guys like myself are involved.
Big kids.
Big kids, that's all it is. You're a big kid.
Welcome back to Bartell's Backroads. We're on an epic road trip throughout the West Coast. Up next, we're heading back to California to check out the 8th wonder of the world. In Shasta County, you'll find Burney Falls. It's a place where the water just seems to pour right out of the rocks.
Our creation story tells about our areas and where we come from. And Maui is an area that has a lot of cultural diversity. Our people come from healing doctors, stargazers, storytellers, basket makers, and this area is one of the many areas within the Pit River tribe that has all of these things.
This is MacArthur Burney Falls Memorial State Park, better known as just Burney Falls. President Theodore Roosevelt once called it the eighth wonder of the world, but for the Maui band of the Pit River tribe, it's much more than a scenic spot. To them, this is a sacred living altar.
It's very important to us for spiritual reasons. One being a cleanse, spiritual cleanse. If you're having trouble with your life, if you're having trouble spiritually or mentally, you submerge yourself in the falls and you ask the falls to take that away or remedy some of those issues.
The cool waters you see here start as snowmelt from Burney Mountain. It filters through underground springs before cascading 129 feet down the face of Burney Falls.
They just keep coming.
I know, they don't. Hey, you guys can't go down there. No, you just can't go down there.
Today, Burney Falls draws hordes of first-time nature seekers and social media photo fanatics, many of whom wander off trail, trampling through sacred areas, all for that perfect selfie.
For all of these people here, they're sharing in this medicine, right? It's open to them. But in this area, these are living lands, and these living lands don't need to be trampled on. They don't need to be disrupted. They don't need to be disturbed.
Burney Falls is one of California's most popular waterfalls, seeing around 350,000 visitors a year. And right now, the place is essentially being loved to death.
I always describe it almost like it's like Disneyland without the resources.
Despite the thousands of people who visit the park, there's only about 200 actual parking spots and just one kiosk entrance.
Thanks for coming, folks. Appreciate your patience. Enjoy the falls.
Supervising Ranger Blair Pubel says, for many years, the park's quaint size was manageable, but
we're all full, guys. Try us back in a couple hours.
Then social media and the pandemic happened.
You look on social media and the photos they're taking, well, they're cropping out the 300 other people in the background there.
In 2024, the park saw so many visitors that officials had to shut down the main trail at the base of the falls, repairing erosion caused by heavy foot traffic.
And they would just jump off the trail here, and that was causing just insane amounts of erosion, unsafe amounts of erosion.
Before it became an outdoor Disneyland, MacArthur Burney Falls stood as a symbol of preservation. It's California's second oldest state park, named after pioneer Samuel Burney and the MacArthur family, who donated the land in the 1920s to protect it. At the time, power company PG&E wanted to build a hydroelectric dam here.
When they put that dam in, it was essentially all of this would be underwater and be part of this reservoir to fuel that power plant. The MacArthur family appreciated and had the foresight to really see, like, hey, we can't let that happen. Thanks for coming up.
In recent years, the California State Park System has made considerable efforts to include indigenous people in decision-making of the park's management and preservation, including the traffic into the sacred lands at Burney Falls.
We're looking at all solutions. We're looking at all ideas. We're talking to our agency partners, Caltrans, CHP, the locals.
Back in the 1990s, District Superintendent Matt Teague recognized the growing traffic issue and helped develop a solution to manage the crowds.
So back in '97, the department developed the general plan, which is in place today. It is old now, but it is still in place. And that plan focuses on the concept of a Caltrans highway reroute.
The plan that Matt's referring to would reroute Highway 89 at least a mile away from Burney Falls. Right now, when the park's 200 parking spots are filled up, visitors often park along the highway and walk in illegally, trampling over sensitive plants along the way.
But it also gives us that separation from the entrance to implement the other solutions, such as a shuttle system, a reservation system, and control the demand at any given time in the park.
While long-term solutions are still years away, those who call this land sacred say real change begins with awareness and respect.
When you're entering those areas, it's about respect. You know, I just want people to respect our area.
Clip-clop through the streets and make history feel like a storybook come to life. A carriage ride through Leavenworth, Washington reveals how a once struggling railroad town reinvented itself into the state's beloved Bavarian village. There's a place in the Cascades of Washington that looks, feels, and sounds like the Swiss Alps. That place is called Leavenworth, a Bavarian-themed town with a Pacific Northwest hospitality.
So what's that little door at the top up there?
I'm glad you asked about that. That's actually where our glockenspiel is. Does your hometown have a glockenspiel?
I have no idea what a glockenspiel is.
Okay.
If you're wondering what a glockenspiel is and why this little Washington mountain town is covered in Bavarian facade, hitch a ride with the Leavenworth Carriage Company and talk with historian Ann Peavy.
Were these people Bavarian or I mean, I guess are we
There was nothing Bavarian about them, believe it or not. They were just, homesteaders.
Ann says in the late 1800s, Leavenworth was a major locomotive hub, moving cargo up and over the mountains. But when the railroad relocated in the 1920s, so did many of the people.
So Leavenworth's population went from close to 5,000 people in the early 1920s down to about 900 people.
For decades, Leavenworth struggled and many businesses closed. But then in the 1950s, two entrepreneurs, Bob Rogers and Ted Price, came up with an idea.
Bob Rogers, part of that partnership, he saw the area as having a backdrop that reminded him of Bavaria when he was there in World War II.
Bob and Ted started with a Bavarian-style restaurant and eventually talked the entire town into a major remodel. Storefronts added Tudor-style trim, colorful murals, and a giant maypole.
Starting from the bottom and working its way up, you can see a little bit of this little town's history from the railroad and the timber industry all the way to the change to turn into a Bavarian village toward the top.
To this day, Leavenworth residents like Janet Mano still embrace the Bavarian facade and share the adopted culture with visitors.
And it's the herdsman's horn. So in the mid-1700s, in fact, there was a decree in Switzerland that every herdsman should play the Alp horn because it increased milk production. Good for the motherland.
Oh, and I almost forgot. At the end of the tour, Ann told me what a glockenspiel is.
Glockenspiel. That's a German word for a specific type of a clock that's very common in Germany. At the top of each hour, the clock chimes, the doors open, and wooden figurines come out and dance to recorded accordion music.
Well, thanks for watching Bartell's Backroads and touring the West Coast with me. I hope it's inspired you to take a little road trip of your own. I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the Backroads.